Assalamu alaikum indulgers, welcome to the Ramadan cooking series. Today we are kicking off the series with Kunun samiya, also known as spiced tamarind and millet porridge. This porridge is quick and easy to prepare and not to mention very nutritious. To prepare this porridge you will need a few ingredients: tamarind, millet powder, negro pepper, cloves, chili powder and ginger powder. All of the measurements for this recipe will be as follows. Into a pot I've added 8 cups of water and added the spices and brought it to a boil. Next add about an index finger sized amount of tamarind. You may add more or less tamarind depending on how sour you like your porridge. Once you've added the tamarind, allow it to boil for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, remove the liquid from the heat and introduce part of it into your millet powder to form a loose paste. Once you have formed a smooth paste, reintroduce the liquid back onto the stove and pour in the millet paste while whisking briskly. Allow it to cook further until you are satisfied with the thickness of your kunun samiya. Remove it from the heat and serve. Add sugar to taste and enjoy it with your favorite appetizers. Thank you all for watching and Ramadan Kareem.
Hello and assalamu alaikum, welcome to Indulge with ET. Today we're going to be making Hausa koko, also known as koko mewa. To make this recipe we're going to need the following ingredients: some millet, a combination of spices here, black pepper, some wentia, also known as kimba in Hausa. In English it's also known as negro pepper. We have some cloves as well, fresh ginger and some dried chili. So to begin with, we're going to wash our millet before soaking it overnight. As you can see inside, we have some corn and some other foreign objects. We don't want all of this, so we're going to wash it thoroughly and remove any foreign particles. So into this pot, I'm going to add my millet and then add some water to give it a good clean. As you can see, there is so much dust in here. Most likely it was drying out in the open and has been exposed to weather and other elements. Here I have some water. I'm going to just add that into this pot. Let a good cleaning. So before me I have some water and I have my soaked millet and I have what we call a korea, which is a calabash bowl. And I'm going to use a traditional method to clean my millet. To begin, I'm going to collect some millet, pour out the water, and then go ahead to submerge it into some fresh water. Now I'm going to pour the millet into the palm of my hand and search for any stones, possible pieces of maize and sorghum. It's likely that your millet has been sold with these other grains, and so you might find bits and pieces of them in your batch.
As you can see, there are stones settling at the bottom of my calabash, and so do well to remove all of them. Please take your time to remove these stones, otherwise you're most likely going to spoil your blender. Trust me, I learned the hard way. Wash your millet thoroughly and pour in some fresh water and allow it to soak overnight. This will ensure that the millet is hydrated the next morning, which will make it easier for us to blend. It's the next morning and our millet has been soaking overnight. Fermentation has taken place, and what we have on top is a whole lot of bubbles, and the liquid has begun to develop a sweet taste. So what we're going to do next is sieve out our millet and prepare it for the blending process. Now that our millet has been strained, we're going to incorporate our spices. As introduced yesterday, we're going to be using some dried chili, some black peppercorns, some negro pepper, and some cloves, and of course fresh ginger. You can add more or less of these spices depending on your own taste. I don't like my koko to be too spicy, so I go easy on the dried chili and the ginger. I have 2 toddlers at home who absolutely love koko. Of course, I want them to be able to enjoy it. So now I'm going to wash my ginger before peeling it. Make sure I get rid of as much of that dirt as possible. This ginger is as organic as it gets. The flavor really hits. A really simple way to peel ginger is with a spoon. It saves quite a bit of time. It saves a lot of ginger as well. Don't be too particular. You can leave some of the skin on, of course, as long as the dirt is washed off. So today I'm going to be using my Joy blender to do the blending. It's a multifunctional blender. It has 15 speeds and a pulse option. My measuring cup is half a cup, and so I'm putting in about 4 cups in total of millet. Then I'm going to add some sliced ginger. I've opted to go with 1 bit of ginger because I don't want it to be too spicy. But you can add more, of course. In go my other spices. My black peppercorns. And then my cloves. Notice that I have not added my negro pepper. I'm not going to blend this with the other ingredients. I will be introducing it to the recipe much later on. Please stay tuned for that. Top up with a bit more millet and then add some water so that your millet is submerged, and go ahead and blend until smooth. This Joy blender is currently on special for the month of Ramadan. It is only available at the moment for Ghanaian residents. Please check out the link in my description for details. A good blender really goes a long way, especially during the month of Ramadan when we're blending things like beans and other grains to prepare our iftar. Once your millet and spices are well blended, go ahead and use a sieve with very fine holes to sift out the shaft from the starch. With your clean hands, go ahead and get in there and work out this millet. Squeeze it until you are left with the shaft and all the starch has made it into the bowl. Making koko is truly a labor of love, but it still stands as one of Ghana's most favorite porridges. Children love it, adults do too. It is highly nutritious and has a relaxing effect on people. Let me know in the comment section if you've ever been put to sleep after a nice warm bowl of koko. It definitely works like a sleeping tablet for me. Now that we have successfully extracted the starch, let's go ahead and strain our koko one more time to ensure that it's going to be extra smooth, and set the koko mixture aside to ferment overnight. Today is day 3, the final day of the koko making process, and hopefully today we get to enjoy some delicious koko. So before me I have my koko that has been sitting overnight. It has separated. The food part of it is at the bottom, and up top we have what we call samiya. This is the fermented water which we're going to use to prepare our koko. So first up, let's separate the water from the food. So I'm going to
Pour all the liquid part into this measuring cup. What is left now is the millet with all those spices. It smells like cocoa already. I can smell the ginger, the black pepper, the chilies, and the cloves. Some of this, the food, we call this Kunun koko. I'm going to collect some of it to prepare some cocoa. Before me, I have a pot here. I'm going to go ahead and add 1 cup of water into this pot. About a 1/4 cup of this sami. Add more of this sami if you want a more fermented tasting cocoa, but I like mine a little less sour. And I think I'm gonna go ahead with 1/2 cup of water. So in total, that's 1.5 cups of water and a 1/4 cup of sami. At this point, I'm going to add my negro pepper, also known as kimba, and I'm going to allow this to come to a rolling boil. In the meantime, we're going to prepare something called gulaji. Gulaji is basically sweetened millet dumplings that we add to cocoa so that while you're drinking it, you have something sweet to chew on. My mom often prepares cocoa like this, and making it this way really makes me miss her a bunch. Here I have some of that Kunun cocoa, and before me I have some millet powder. This is basically millet that has been grounded. So I'm going to add about 1.5 tablespoons to thicken it up, following some sugar. Gulaji is meant to be sweet. So I'm gonna mix this up. If I feel like it's too thick, I will add some water. But I think this is the perfect consistency. It's really coming together. In fact, a little bit more of this millet powder. Yeah, that looks good. And now I'm gonna dip my fingers in this gulaji mixture and bring it together. It's still a bit too wet for my liking, so, and a bit more millet in here. You want something like a dough-like consistency. Now it's a bit on the thick side, so I'm going to add some sami to loosen it up. Okay, now this is definitely workable. So with my fingers, I'm going to grab a bit and I'm going to roll it into a ball. There we have our gulaji. So into the water it goes. Don't make them too big. I'm going to reduce that one. And I'm going to pop it in there. So repeat this until you have your desired amount of gulaji. What you don't use, you can store in the fridge as well. So let's check in on our gulaji. As you can see, it's coming together. It's already solidified. We're going to give it a few more minutes so that it's cooked all the way through before adding in our food part, which is the Kunun koko. Gulaji again, it's been a few more minutes. Yes, this one is perfect. I'm going to turn off the heat, and here is our Kunun koko. So this is the food itself. This is the koko itself. Add a little bit of water to this so that it becomes more pasty. And with the aid of my whisk, I'm going to whisk that until it loosens up. And add my kunun koko and whisk away. It's thickening up very, very quickly and is already forming the koko that we know. I'm going to turn on the heat just for a minute. Perfect, it's ready.
Serve your koko while it's still hot. Add your sweetener of choice. Today I'm adding some sugar. You may add honey, date syrup or stevia, whatever you prefer.
Our koko is ready. Let's give it a taste. Of course, with the gulaji, my absolute favorite. Bismillah. Delicious. I hope you all enjoyed this recipe. For me, there's no Ramadan without koko. It's an absolute staple during the month of Ramadan. I wish you all a blessed Ramadan. Barakah Azmi in advance.
To store what you don't use, get some freezer bags and portion out your desired quantity of kunun koko as well as ruwan sami. Keep them all in the freezer to avoid further fermentation and bring them out to thaw perhaps the night before or in the morning for use. Please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this recipe so that I know to bring similar videos your way.
I'll catch you all in the next episode of Ramadan with Eat.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, ya kishirwa ya ibada. One of you dear indulgers on Facebook requested that I make kunu. So today I'm going to be making kunun kanwa. This is my favorite type of kunu. There are many varieties, but I hope this is the one that you are after. So into my large measuring cup, I've added 1.5 cups of millet powder followed by my spices and a pinch of salt. I'm going to leave the measurements for all my spices up on the screen and in the description of this video. So once I've added my spices, I'm going to add 1.5 cups of water, and with the wooden spoon I'm going to bring it all together so that I have a thick paste that I can easily pour. Now what makes kunun kanwa different from other kunu is that we're going to use kanwa. Kanwa is also known as potassium salt. It appears naturally in nature and we use it a lot in West African cuisine to soften beans and to do other things like make kunun kanwa. So I've added some hot water into my cup with my kunun kanwa, and once it has dissolved, I'm going to pour it into my pot of water. Here we have 2.3 liters of water. I'm going to remove 2 cups of water and set it aside for later. For all my viewers that are far from the African continent, you can use bicarbonate soda as a substitute. 1.5 teaspoons would be perfect for this recipe. Once the water comes to a rolling boil, make sure you switch off your cooker. I forgot to do that, and so I developed some lumps in my kunu. So here I am whisking really quickly in order to loosen them up. But if you also have this problem, you can use a hand blender to smooth it out or a whisk. Once you transferred your kunu into your container of choice, you can go ahead and add those 2 cups of liquid that we removed earlier. As kunu cools down, it becomes very thick. So by saving this liquid, we're going to be able to control the thickness right before we enjoy it. So thank you for requesting this recipe. My family and I really did enjoy it. It's been a while since I had kunu, and I recall my 10-year-old self lining up opposite Darul Hadith Mosque here in Kumasi just to buy some kunu and fried chicken. It's been years since I've been there. I'm not sure if they still sell it. But one thing for certain is that spot was part of the great memories I had of holidays here in Ghana. Serve your kunu with some sugar, evaporated milk, and some groundnuts. Thank you so much for watching, and barakamu da shanruwa. Assalamu alaikum everyone. MashaAllah, many of you guessed correctly. That's right, we're making fura. So into this large calabash, I'm adding about 6 cups of millet flour followed by my spices. Some white pepper, ginger powder, chili powder, powdered cloves, and a pinch of salt. All the measurements are on the screen. Please screenshot at your convenience. So next I'm going to incorporate some water. There are no measurements for the water. Please add it according to your judgment.
If you feel as though a dough has come together and it's looking pretty solid, then you probably have enough water. But try as much as possible to get a dough-like consistency that's easy to mold, just like the one on the screen. So next, I'm going to cover it for about 3 hours to give the dough some time to rest and hopefully some time to develop a little bit of fermentation. If you want a sour taste, then go ahead and rest it for longer. So once I've rolled my fura balls, I'm going to put them into a steamer and over some hot water for 1 whole hour. Alternatively, you can boil it directly into the water, but I prefer to do it this way by steaming. So now I'm going to roll these balls into some millet flour and we are ready to serve. So get your fura ball ready and with your hands break it apart. I like to have my bits of fura on the chunkier side. Fura is indigenous to the Fulani tribe. The Fulani tribe is known as the world's largest nomadic group. Historically, the Fulani people were nomads and they would move from different communities and sometimes countries in order to find green pastures for their livestock. And where there was food for their livestock, they would make a home for themselves. Naturally, the Fulani diet consists of a lot of dairy products. You have yogurt, fresh milk, and butter. And they also make use of a great deal of grains like sorghum, millet, amongst others. So guys, I'm using Greek yogurt instead of nono, and I'm also going to use some full cream milk as well. Drop a heart in the comment section if you have Fulani origins. My mother is a Fulani from Mali. Where are you from? I hope you enjoyed this compilation of West African Ramadan-inspired porridges. If you'd like to view more Ramadan-inspired recipes, check out my Ramadan playlist for more.